Hey guys, welcome back by a new video on my channel. On this new Star Wars channel, I wanna start off with the first video ranking all the Star Wars movies and the shows. I don't know if this tier list includes every single show and movie, but I think most of them. So I guess this would be a fair introduction what I think about Star Wars and which movies I like the most and everything. So let's get started. So I'm gonna start off this list with The Mandalorian. I think I'm gonna have an unpopular opinion. So I'm not the biggest fan of The Mandalorian. I don't think it's bad by any means. There are some really good episodes in it and I do like some characters, but overall as a show I think I'm gonna put it at an S tier. And that's not saying too much because I like every single show and movie in this tier list. Of course I'm gonna like some more than others, but overall I still enjoy The Mandalorian. To be fair, I haven't really fully watched the later seasons because again, I'm not the biggest fan. I think it can be kind of boring and I don't like the writing in the later seasons, but overall the first season was pretty solid. I like the Luke stuff, most of it, and I do think this show has potential. The next one I'm gonna rank is Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones, for me personally, is a weird one because I know the movies had flaws and it's obviously not the best Star Wars movie if you look at it like a movie standard way, but overall I do really enjoy this movie. I think one thing this movie truly has that is really underrated is the music scores. There are some beautiful music scores. I love the love score between Padme and Anakin. It's probably one of my favorite scores in the entire Star Wars saga. I like the moment when Anakin finds his mother dead and he just goes full Darth Vader mode. I think that's a great scene. I think this movie has some really great scenes and I really enjoy watching the movie, but I need to put it at a B tier because I know the movie has some flaws, but overall I truly really enjoy the prequels and I really enjoy Attack of the Clones. I overall think it has a good story, but has some bad CGI and some bad acting that puts it down a little for me, but overall it's still a B tier. And next on the list is The Force Awakens. Overall I think The Force Awakens is a really fun movie to watch. It may not be the best Star Wars movie, but it's a fun movie to watch and I think it's a good introduction for new Star Wars fans, and I think it does that pretty well, and that was kind of the point of this movie because before the movie there wasn't any Star Wars for a long time, so this is kind of a new introduction to Star Wars for new Star Wars fans, and I think it does that pretty well. The main criticism for this movie is that it's a soft reboot of A New Hope, and I can see that. There are a lot of similarities, but I like the new characters, so I overall think the movie is pretty solid. It may not have the greatest story, but it does one thing really good, and that's introducing new Star Wars fans to Star Wars. So overall it's probably one of my first Star Wars movies I watched and I have fond memories watching it for the first time, and I still think it's a pretty solid movie, so I put it at the C tier. The next one is gonna be a show and not a movie. It's the Clone Wars show, and I think the Clone Wars show has one of the greatest Star Wars content, not only of the Star Wars shows but movies as well. There are some great episodes that are really close to Empire Strikes Back quality in my opinion, honestly, and it really helps the Anakin character, the Clone Wars. You really start liking Anakin a lot more after the Clone Wars show. I always liked Anakin, but a lot of people didn't like Anakin, and this show really helps Anakin develop as a character, so that does it pretty well. Some great episodes. I think the show is really creative. It has a really dark theme. It's a children's show, but it has really dark moments. That's something I really like about it. Overall, if I think about Star Wars, one of the first things I think about is the Clone Wars because it's such a good show. I can just talk about it for hours. It's just everything about Star Wars I love is in the Clone Wars, so I would put it an S tier, honestly. Maybe I'm kinda overrating it because I know the first seasons are kinda mid sometimes and there are some bad episodes, but overall the show has some of the best Star Wars content for sure, so I'm gonna put it an S tier. This is my tier list, so I'm just gonna do it. The next movie on the list is Solo. So Solo Star Wars story was really, I just didn't have any feelings watching the movie. I watched it like, I don't know how old the movie is, I think it's like 4 years old, and I watched it like a couple of times. I didn't think it was really good, or I didn't think it was really bad as well. It was just really average. It didn't leave any memories for me, so overall I just think this is just a really average, not like, it's not bad, so it's kind of difficult to even hate on the movie, because overall I think the movie, a lot of people even don't remember the movie, so to be fair, but I do think the movie gets a little bit too much hate, and I don't think it's bad. It's an enjoyable movie, it's a fun ride, but I don't think it's on the same list as the other movies I've ranked before, so I'm gonna put that D tier, but it's still not a bad movie. Next on the list is the Phantom Menace. So the Phantom Menace, for me personally, is slightly better than Attack of the Clones. I think the Phantom Menace has a great story overall. There are some moments I really like. I like the Darth Maul fight. I think that's great. Probably one of the greatest fights in the entire Star Wars saga. I like the Darth Maul team. I like the way the movie looks. I like a lot of things about the Phantom Menace. I think the Phantom Menace got too much hate when it was released back in the day. Of course, the movie has flaws. Jar Jar Binks. I honestly don't hate Jar Jar Binks. I think Jar Jar Binks is obviously not needed, but overall I don't feel frustrated when I watch Jar Jar Binks. I just don't think this movie get that much love, and I think it's sad, because I think the movie has some really good moments, and overall I think it feels really like Star Wars, this movie, for me personally. So I'm gonna put it at a B tier next to Attack of the Clones, but I like it a little more than Attack of the Clones, so I'm gonna put it before Attack of the Clones. So next on the list is Rogue One. Rogue One may be the best Disney Star Wars movie. Obviously the last scene in the Rogue One movie is really good, where Darth Vader, spoiler alert, but the movie is like 4 or 5 years old, so you probably have seen the movie, but he started destroying people. I think that was a pretty good scene. I like the Darth Vader scenes. I think the characters are pretty fun. I overall enjoy the movie. I think it's a good movie. It's a good Disney Star Wars movie, and people should talk more about this movie, because I think it's underrated a little, because people always seem to hate on Disney Star Wars, and I understand a lot of the criticism honestly, but they have put out some good Star Wars content, and Rogue One is the evidence for that. So I think I'm gonna like put it between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones in the B tier. I think that's a pretty good place for Rogue One, honestly. Let's go over the next one, and it's the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. That is like the last Star Wars content I've watched. I think it's not awful, and I don't think it's great. It's somewhere in between. It really reminded me of Solo. It really didn't give me any really strong feelings. I did like the scene where like Kenobi smashed open Darth Vader's helm. I think that's a pretty good scene. I think it has some good scenes. I obviously like Kenobi and Anakin. They're my favorite two characters of Star Wars, but I'm just disappointed by the show overall. I don't think it's awful, it's just really average. I would put it, above Solo. I think the show has some moments I enjoyed. It wasn't really awful. That's something I want to say. I don't think the show is awful, but it's just average or mediocre, you can call it. And I wish it was better. I wish it would have focused more on like Kenobi as a character and Anakin in a relationship. I think that would have made it much greater, and I don't like the Reva character at all. So I think I'm gonna I don't know if I like it more than a Mandalorian. I probably would put it next to the Force Awakens. I still put that as C tier, but I would put it at the low C tier, if you know what I mean. Next up is The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker, in my opinion, is the only Star Wars movie I would be considering bad. It's the worst Star Wars sequel movie by a mile. It didn't do anything creative. I don't think it's a good ending of the Star Wars saga. It does nothing special. It has been done many times before. The story is really bland. It feels like a video game story. I really didn't enjoy the movie. I've only watched the movie once and I was really surprised how bad it truly was. One thing I do enjoy about The Rise of Skywalker is the scene between Han Solo and Ben. I thought that was really clever and nicely done, and I enjoyed that. I think the movie had some great places like the Sith Temple. I thought that was pretty nice, and I do think the movie had potential, but it was just really, everything in the movie was already been done in another Star Wars movie, nothing creative. I don't think it was a good ending, and the story was leaked long before the movie was released, and when I was reading the story I was like, that is not gonna be the movie, because it sounded so bad. So yeah, I don't have many good things to say about the movie. I'm gonna definitely put this one at the D tier. I'm gonna put it as the lowest it can be. The next movie is gonna be the masterpiece Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back movie is probably one of the greatest movies made in all Star Wars history. Not only in Star Wars history, but I would say in movie history. It's just perfect. I would not change anything about this movie. It has one of the greatest plot twists. It's beautifully shot. The music is great. It's just a perfect movie. It's just such a good movie, and it's so rewatchable as well. I've at least watched this movie 15 times. It's a classic. It's great. It has been said many times, but it may be the best movie ever made. Could be close to that, and I'm definitely gonna put this at an S tier. Let's see, next up is Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is my personal favorite Star Wars movie by a mile. I just adore this movie. Everything about this movie is just really done greatly. It's the best prequel movie by a mile, and I really enjoy the prequel movies. It has done a lot of things that I enjoy. One of my favorite things is the fact that Anakin turns and you really see why he's turning, because of the Jedi Council, because he wants to save his wife, and it has really been shown that he's a tragic hero and he really did it for his wife, and it's just a really good movie. It's a tragic movie, it's a sad movie. It's definitely like the darkest Star Wars movie by a mile. Anakin gets burned alive. The memes are great as well. What can I say about this movie? Like, this movie has everything you wanted in a Star Wars movie. It's a classic. It's up there with Empire Strikes Back in my opinion. So I'm gonna put it, I mean, it's hard to say which movie is better, like Empire Strikes Back or Revenge of the Sith, but I personally enjoy Revenge of the Sith more than Empire Strikes Back. I'm not saying it's a better movie, but in my tier list, I will put it above Empire Strikes Back. Well, next up is Star Wars with Resistance, and I've never watched it, so I'm gonna put it in the never watched tier. Then we're going to rank A New Hope. So A New Hope is the first Star Wars movie. It made Star Wars Star Wars. It was called Star Wars before it was called Star Wars A New Hope. It's such a great movie. I know there's some clumpy dialogue and it's a little bit slow, but I truly enjoy it. One of my favorite scenes is in it. It's the burning sunset and you can see Luke, a young boy, and looking at his destiny. It's such a beautiful scene. That was honestly like the scene that made me a Star Wars fan. I just really enjoy A New Hope. I don't care if people say it's a slow movie. I just think it's just Star Wars. It's Star Wars. A New Hope is Star Wars. It just feels like Star Wars. It does everything right in my opinion. Maybe the movie has some flaws and maybe it's not as good as Empire Strikes Back, but I will still put it in S tier. I put it above Clone Wars and between Empire. I think that's a pretty good place. Oh, this is a controversial one. It's The Last Jedi. Some people say it's the best Star Wars movie, some people truly hate the movie. You can find like 2 hours rants about the movie. What I do admire about The Last Jedi, that they tried to do something different than The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens was a really safe movie. It was a soft reboot of A New Hope and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun ride. I just am conflicted still about The Last Jedi. I enjoyed things about The Last Jedi. I like the snow planet, I don't know what it was called. I like the Force relationship between Rey and Ben. And I do like a lot of scenes. I think if the movie had not done the things to Luke Skywalker, I think a lot of people would have enjoyed the movie more. I think the movie could have been really good and could have been in like an E tier or B tier, but I cannot put it there. I would put it next to The Force Awakens and above Kenobi. I think the movie had a lot of potential. I enjoyed a lot of things, but it's not up there with the S tier or anything that high. But the movie isn't awful in my opinion. It should have done things differently and it would have been put much higher. This movie had a lot of potential, but it's just a difficult one to rank. Next up is Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is seen by many as the worst movie of the original Star Wars movie. I really enjoyed Return of the Jedi still. I know it's not as good as A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. There are moments in the movie that I would say are as good as Empire or even better. I really enjoy the moment where Vader saves his son. I like when Luke burns Vader and you have this beautiful music. There are really good moments in this movie and it's still a really solid good movie. So I'm really conflicted if I would put it in the S tier. Yeah, I think I still would put Return of the Jedi in S tier because it still has moments that are just truly great and may not be as good as A New Hope or Empire. So I put that between the Clone Wars and A New Hope. I think that's a really good spot. I just don't want to put it any lower because there are still some really good moments in it. Of course, like the Ewoks, I don't really hate the Ewoks personally, but yeah, it could have been better. There could have been things done in that movie that would have put it at the same level as Empire, but I still really enjoyed Return of the Jedi and it's probably still one of my favorite movies because of the beautiful scenes between Vader and Luke. It really has one of the greatest movie moments in any movie really, and it's still a really good movie, but I cannot put it higher than Empire. Next up is Star Wars Rebels. Well, Star Wars Rebels is kind of difficult to rank because there are some really childish moments in this movie and I'm the biggest fan of the animation style. I wish they had still the animation of the Clone Wars, but there are some really good moments as well. I really enjoyed the Kenobi Darth Maul arc. I thought that was pretty good, and of course the Ahsoka Darth Vader moment. So this show has moments that are the same level as the Clone Wars, but overall I'm gonna put it a lot lower because this movie had a lot of show has a lot of fillers. It has some childish moments. It's not as dark as the Clone Wars, and there are some episodes that are just bad. So I think I'm gonna put it, let's see, I would put it higher than Kenobi. I would put it between The Last Jedi and Kenobi, yeah. Next up is The Bad Batch. Well, I haven't fully watched the show, so I cannot rank it yet, so I'm gonna put it in never watched. Next up is Boba Fett. Yeah, Boba Fett is the worst Disney Star Wars show. This is just a really boring show. It really doesn't feel like Star Wars. I don't like a lot about this show, honestly. It's not good, like it's really not good, and I really am thinking about even putting it lower than The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, I think I'll put it lower than The Rise of Skywalker because I could still find like moments I like in The Rise of Skywalker, and I honestly cannot find any moments I truly liked. Maybe there were some decent moments, but overall, yeah, the Boba Fett show isn't good. Next up is Andor. More people should have watched this show. It's a good show. It's not like, some people say like it's a masterpiece. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece. If I should rank it, I'd probably rank it between yeah, I would put it higher than the Mandalorian, so I put it in the B tier. It's definitely a good show. It is definitely a show that deserved more people watching it, because I think not many people watched the Endor show, because the character Endor wasn't that well known and it sounds kind of boring. But overall, I did enjoy Endor after watching it fully, but it's definitely a slow burn and you really need to put some time in watching it, and it's definitely worth it. And I do think it's good Disney Star Wars content. Besides Rogue One, I would say Endor is pretty good Star Wars Disney content, so I put it in the B tier. Next up is Tales of the Jedi. Well, Tales of the Jedi is a really good show. It was just really short, and I wish it would have been longer. Then maybe I would have ranked it higher. But overall, I think it's good. So I would put it, yeah, I would put it next to Endor in the B tier. It's definitely not like the same quality as the Clone Wars yet. It definitely could have been as good as the Clone Wars if it would have been continued, but I think it has potential, and I really enjoyed it, and I'll put it in the B tier. Next up is the old school Clone Wars show. It's a different animation show, and it's not that long. I've watched it a lot when I was younger, and I truly enjoy it. It's a fun little show to watch. It's kind of difficult to rank it because it's not that long, first of all, and it's not many people even watched it, I think. I mean, the diehard Star Wars fans have watched everything, but like the major Star Wars fans haven't watched it, and I would really suggest watching it because it's a fun show. I like the animation, I like Anakin, and it's worth watching. So I would put it, between Phantom Menace and Rogue One. I think that's a pretty good spot. So this is my ranking of the Star Wars movies. So I have not used one tier. I don't know why. I guess there aren't many movies I would put in that tier, but this is my ranking. You can hate it all you want. This is what I think. This is my opinion. What is your Star Wars ranking? I would love to hear your Star Wars ranking. Leave it in the comment section, and I will see you guys in another video.